Breaking this morning, a man has been shot dead.
Police have called it another targeted and reckless crime.
Still investigating whether this is gang-related, but certainly the community is on edge.
Blood on the streets of Sydney's southwest. School children file past the latest casualty in a suspected gangland war raging in suburbia.
I just live here and I'm so worried about in shock because it's a really quiet town.
5 very quick, sharp, short shots.
That was like another shooting in Sydney, so it's pretty concerning.
A 28-year-old man killed outside his Canterbury home in the early hours. The 5th person shot in as many days as police fear gang violence is spiralling out of control.
We can assure the public we will not tolerate this level of violence on our streets, particularly by a very small number of criminals who want to play out their tit-for-tat in our streets.
2 burned-out cars found 30 minutes from the crime scene, an ominous calling card linked with several recent shootings. Taskforce Magnus today launched to investigate links between the attacks.
We will be throwing 100 extra police officers at this. We're talking about 70 investigators dedicated to the task force and 30 additional proactive arm that will be patrolling the streets of southwest Sydney.
The deaths dating back to the execution-style killing of Alan Moradian, known as the Tony Soprano of Australia's cocaine racket.
We're saying this is a well-planned, executed murder of a high-level criminal identity.
2 weeks later, brothers William and Eric Ciali were hit at a salon in Marrickville. Both survived.
It is very brazen.
Sunday, Ahmed Al-Azam was shot multiple times as he sat in a parked car. 2 others were caught in the crossfire. Al-Azam dying from his injuries today. While yesterday, criminal defence lawyer Mahmoud Abbas was gunned down in his driveway in broad daylight.
It is of grave concern. I want to assure the public that we take this very seriously.
Police are operating on the belief the shootings are linked to the illegal drug trade in Sydney's west. Locals living in the battleground suburbs fear the next move in what seems to be an increasing exchange of fire.
It changed a little bit my mind, thinking I'm living in a quiet country.
It's tragic and people have to live in amongst it as well.
Here to tell us more about yet another Sydney shooting is crime reporter Mark Morri. Mark, we have a situation now where kids are being offered counselling after walking past dead bodies in the streets. Have police lost control of this?
I think they're very worried about it. They'll say they haven't lost control and, you know, they'll point to statistics that 10 years ago there were less shootings and murders, but it's the public perception now is starting to really get a bit out of control, and that's what they have to try and alleviate, is the fact that the people in the community are seeing all these murders and they're getting pretty worried.
So forgive me if this comes across as a cynical question, but up to now, do you think police have actually wanted to stop this? You know, when it's sort of gangland stuff and it's confined to that, do they care to stop it, or is it better for them if they just watch these guys take each other out?
No. Look, that's a misconception. And I've said it a lot. I've asked them, I said, you must be happy that guy's dead. And they go, well, not really, because we'd rather him in jail. And, you know, if you've got a killer out there, then they're going to kill again. And what if they miss and hit someone innocent? So I you know, don't have that cynical view. I used to. But after talking to them a lot, I'm fairly convinced that they don't like to see anybody dead. They just rather have them in jail.
Mm. Mark, is this over? How likely is it that we'll see another shooting in the coming days? It feels like every day there's something else.
It does. I've seen this come in clusters before where it's just, you know, it's constant. And it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, yo-yos. You know, if someone else has got one, they start doing it, and other little clans will see it and they'll just start shooting. And I think we will see more shootings. You know, we're always going to see shootings. It's just how rapidly they come, and whether the police can actually identify who's out there, who's a target. But sometimes some of these people being shot, they weren't on police radar, like, at all. They, you know, apart from Alan Meridian, who was a major target, and people knew he was going to be shot, or potentially, some of the others, they've just, you know, you wouldn't have picked it. So that's the biggest problem for police, is trying to figure out who's next.
Well, I think, Mark, that kind of answers my question, because often when these gangland wars are going on, I wonder, why don't the people involved leave town? If they know it's getting hot, why don't they lay low? But they all seem to stay in areas and then get taken out.
Well, you're right, some do, but at the moment, I'd say there are 80 to 100 major Sydney criminals who have gone overseas. They've won either police harassment or, more to the point, they're scared they're going to get a bullet from somebody, so they've all left. But they're still over there, and now with the modern encrypted devices, they're able to run their empires, order the shootings from the safety of some safe haven. Many of them are dual nationals. So some do get out of town. The ones that don't, as you said, they seem to end up dead because they think they're immortal, but they quickly find out they're not.
Mark, we're all familiar with these sorts of gangland wars. How does this one rate on the underbelly scale, would you say?
I think it's starting to get up there. There have been worse ones. There was the Razaks and the Darwiches here, which was a really serious blood feud in the late 2000s. And one of the guys there bought a rocket launcher that they were going to use to take out an opponent. Now, that's pretty scary. Yeah. They also had and we forget about that. Now, there were 4 or 5 dead in that war over a couple of years. But the fact that they actually had a rocket launcher, which police eventually got back, but there's still 10 missing, that was terrifying because I was told that it wouldn't have taken out the house of the target, it would have taken out the other 5 behind it. Oh, so on a scale, this is not good, like frequency, but for ferocity, that one was one of the worst. They also had a machine gun battle in a car park in Hurstville where 70 or 80 bullets were sprayed. So, yeah, it's not the worst that we've seen.
10 missing rocket launchers, you say, Mark?
Wow. About that, yeah. It's
yeah, great.
It's a subject that the counter-terrorism squad don't really like to bring up. They've been missing for years, and that they go for every so often. Someone says, "Oh, I know where one of the rocket launchers are," and they investigate, but they haven't turned up. They've only got one out of about 10 or 12 they think was stolen from the army many years ago.
This is frightening stuff in so many ways. Mark, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you.